In 1956, a young Johnny Cash was struggling to define his sound, his future, and even his identity. Then, almost by accident, he wrote a song in just 20 minutes. A song so simple, so strange, and so honest that it changed country music forever. Today, we're telling the story of how "I Walk the Line" was born, and how it turned Johnny Cash into a legend. Before he was Johnny Cash, he was a young man fresh out of the U.S. Air Force, newly married and trying to survive as a musician in Memphis. He had raw talent, but no clear musical identity. Rock and roll was exploding, country music was rigid, and Johnny Cash didn't quite fit anywhere. At Sun Records, he was surrounded by artists like Elvis Presley and Carl Perkins. Cash felt pressure to stand out or disappear. One night, while experimenting in the studio, Cash noticed something odd. To hear himself clearly over the constant boom-chicka-boom rhythm, he adjusted his guitar strings, tuning them to different keys for each verse. It wasn't planned, it wasn't theory, it was instinct. That unusual tuning created a sense of tension, like the song was constantly correcting itself. Johnny didn't know it yet, but he had just found his sound. Late one evening, inspired by his marriage and his fear of losing control, Cash sat down with his guitar. The lyrics came fast. "I keep a close watch on this heart of mine." There were no metaphors, no clever tricks, just discipline, loyalty, and self-restraint. In roughly 20 minutes, the song was finished. The title? "I Walk the Line." A promise to his wife, to himself, and maybe to the life he hoped he could live. On the surface, "I Walk the Line" sounds like a devotion song, but underneath, it's something darker. Cash wasn't saying love was easy. He was admitting that faithfulness required constant effort. Years later, many would see the song as ironic, given Cash's later struggles with addiction and infidelity. But at that moment, in 1956, this song was a line he was trying desperately not to cross. When Johnny first played the song for Sun Records, executives were unsure. The key changes were unusual. The lyrics were almost too plain. It didn't sound like a hit, but when it was released, radio stations couldn't stop playing it. "I Walk the Line" shot to #1 on the country charts and crossed over into pop, a rare achievement at the time. Johnny Cash was no longer just another singer. He was a voice people trusted. "I Walk the Line" didn't just launch a hit. It defined everything that came after: moral tension, personal struggle, redemption, truth without decoration. Even decades later, the song remains central to Cash's identity, played at concerts, quoted in interviews, and referenced as the moment everything changed. A song written in 20 minutes that took a lifetime to live up to. Sometimes the songs that change history aren't written with ambition, they're written with honesty. And for Johnny Cash, "I Walk the Line" wasn't just a hit, it was a promise he spent his entire life trying to keep.